Issei Hyodo is one of the biggest perverts along with his two friends, Matsuda and Motohama, and attends a previously all-girls school. Having his usual school day, Issei goes to peek at the girls of the Kendo club along with Matsuda and Motohama, who fled after realizing that the girls noticed them, leaving Issei to the mercy of the girls. After being beaten up by the Kendo club girls for peeking, Issei meets a crimson-haired girl, Rias Gremory, in the old school building, falling in love at first sight. Later, on his way home, Issei receives a confession from a girl named Yuma Amano. During their first date, Yuma suddenly kissed Issei at the end of the date, revealing her black wings to Issei, much to the latter's surprise, before creating a spear of light and piercing his body. Moments before his death, Issei thought of Rias and ends up unknowingly summoning her. Issei wakes up the next day in his room, and is surprised to find that none of his friends remember Yuma. He also realizes that he has gained the ability to see in the dark, and developed increased strength at night. While on his way home from his friend's house, Issei goes to the park where he last met Yuma, meeting another fallen angel, Donaseek, who also attempts to kill Issei. Donaseek successfully injures Issei, but before he can deliver the finishing blow, Issei is rescued by 3 girls, one of them being Rias. The next morning, Issei discovers both Rias and himself naked in bed. Rias wakes up smiling, and explains to him that she is a devil, and she is his master as he was reincarnated by her. Episode 2. Issei wakes up surprised to find a naked Rias sleeping beside him. While Rias says that the situation is quite alright, Issei, who still could not fathom his good luck, is surprised, embarrassed, and confused. All at the same time, at this unexpected good turn of events. However, the situation worsens when his mother walks into his room, and sees him together with a naked Rias, causing chaos to ensue early in the morning. After sorting out the situation with Issei's parents with a bit of demonic energy, Rias explains that she is a devil, and has reincarnated him as a servant devil underneath her. After Issei's usual class ends, Issei is visited by Yuto Kiba, another fellow second-year student, who has come to escort Issei to the Occult Research Club. In the club room, Issei meets 2 other members of the club, Akeno Himejima and Koneko Tojo, the 2 girls that helped Rias earlier to rescue Issei. Reintroducing herself, Rias explains to Issei about the great war between the 3 factions, composed of angels, fallen angels, and devils. She also reveals that Yuma, who he once dated before, was a fallen angel that was sent to kill him, as she reintroduces Issei to both her clan alongside her peerage members. After successfully finishing the distribution of pamphlets that were given to him by Rias, Issei is given a chance to visit Koneko's client, as the client's request was overlapping with her schedule. However, while on his way back home after doing business with the client, Issei is confronted by another fallen angel, Kala Warner, but was able to fend her off after he gained the ability to harness the power of his sacred gear. Issei bumps into a nun named Asia Argento, knocking her over on his way to school the next day. Episode 3. The nun admits that she is lost. Issei agrees to escort her back to the church. On the way, after encountering a boy crying due to a bruised knee, Asia displays a healing ability, which upon witnessing causes Issei to have a queasy feeling. This squeamish feeling that Issei feels increases as they finally get to the proximity of the church, to the extent that it causes Issei to refrain from entering the church, or lead Asia any further. Later on, after questioning Rias about the strange feeling he experienced while escorting the girl to the church, Rias tells Issei that the church is an enemy base, and being friends with Asia is the same as fraternizing with the enemy. Rias and the group take Issei with them to kill a stray devil. Rias uses the battle to explain each person's chess rank and ability to Issei. Another mission is taken up by Issei, who arrives at a house. Upon entering, Issei is confronted by a bloody corpse, which is the work of an insane exorcist named Fried Selzen, and serves the fallen angels, who reveals its presence. Fried proudly admits to killing the man, explaining that his victims was in league with the devils. He identifies Issei as another devil, and begins to attack him. Initially, Fried has the upper hand when he shoots Issei in the leg with a gun and slashes him with a light sword. Eventually, Asia comes into the room, instantly startled by and screaming at the sight of the bloody body. Fried comments on why Asia left her job of maintaining the barrier, which was used to mask his presence, wondering if this is the first time Asia saw a dead body, and then proceeds to reveal that Issei is a devil. Freed tries to attack Issei again, but Asia rushes in front of Issei to protect him. Freed easily shoves Asia and restrains her against a wall. This consequently causes Issei to punch Freed in the face. Freed then turns his full attention to Issei, but just as he's about to be finished off, the other members of the Occult Research Club arrive, assisting Issei in his dilemma. Issei and his companions escape quickly. Before they escape, Issei desperately wants to bring the injured Asia with them, but finds out he cannot, since the transportation circle only works for people that are a part of the Gremory clan. Episode 4. Recovering from the previous battle, Issei is focused on getting stronger to rescue Asia, despite Rise's repeated attempts at berating him for attempting to get involved in the business of the opposing side. Issei later heads to the park to practice chin-ups trying to get stronger, but encounters Asia, and ends up going on a date with her. Towards the end of the date, Reinare, the fallen angel who had earlier disguised herself as Yuma, appears and starts a fight with Issei, easily defeating him due to his inexperience. Seeing Issei get injured while trying to protect her, Asia agrees to go with Reinare in return for Issei to be spared, a term that Reinare agrees to. After Asia is taken away by Reinare, Issei returns to the club room in order to try and get helped indirectly. This time, however, to his surprise, Rias helps him, explaining to him that as a pawn, he can rank up to any other piece, except for king. Later on, Yuto and Koneko go with him to the church, where Asia is held hostage in order to save her. While Rias and Akino deal with the trio of fallen angels, Donasik, Kala Warner, and Miltelt, who were tasked with guarding the church. Freed appeared to stop Issei and his group, but ends up defeated by Koneko and Issei, especially after the latter ranks up to be a rook. After Freed escapes, Issei and his group head to the basement, witnessing the final moments of Reinare stealing Asia's sacred gear, killing her in the process. Reinare extracts Asia's sacred gear and puts it into herself. Episode 5. Issei, Kiba, and Koneko fight through the group of rogue exorcists, with Issei managing to catch Asia. He then successfully carries her upstairs to the main part of the church. Having her sacred gear extracted, Asia's life starts to fade away. Despite Issei begging her to live, at her final moments, Asia thanks Issei for being her first friend. Reinare then shows up, demonstrating that she is now capable of the power of Asia's sacred gear, Twilight Healing. Issei challenges Reinare to a fight. Meanwhile, outside the church, Rias and Akino continue their fight until Rias disposes of them after being greatly angered when her servant is insulted. Inside the church, Issei attempts to attack Reinare, but the fallen angel impales him in both of his thighs with light spears. Issei begs for the power to beat Reinare, causing his sacred gear to activate for the first time, increasing his powers and allowing Issei to punch Reinare in the face and defeat the fallen angel in one blow. After the battle, Koneko drags the defeated fallen angel back into the building. Rias notices a change in Issei's sacred gear, realizing its true identity. Rias explains to Reinare that Issei's sacred gear is not the twice critical, as she initially surmised, but rather the boosted gear, one of the 13 Longinus that has the spirit of the Red Dragon Emperor sealed within it. Realizing the danger, Reinare changes back into Yuma, desperately begging Issei to spare her life. However, Issei follows up his true feelings, and gets Rias to kill her off instead. Confirming her death, Issei is gloomy upon the death of his supposed first girlfriend. However, when Rias decides to make Asia into her servant, returning Asia's sacred gear to her after bringing back her former sister to life as a devil, using the bishop piece from her evil pieces set. Issei happily welcomes Asia back. The next day, Issei questions Rias on the possibility of there being 7 more pawns. Rias reveals that she has used all of her pawn pieces while reviving him. Rias tells Issei to become the ultimate pawn, kissing him on the forehead before stopping as Asia appears in the Occult Research Club, having transferred to the Kuo Academy as they celebrate to welcome the newest member of the club. Episode 6. A mysterious person is shown to be looking at the scene through a red bird outside the window of the Occult Research Club. New living arrangements have been made for Asia in the club room, who has been living with the Occult Research Club for some time now. Meanwhile, Rias decides to have Issei undergo basic training to improve his stamina and physical fitness. After finishing his training, Issei is surprised to learn that Asia has decided to move to the Hyodo residence in order to stay together with him. The next day, Asia transfers to Issei's class too, and manages to get along with her new classmates. After finishing the distribution of the pamphlets, Issei decided to try and get his own client, meeting Miltan, a bulky muscular man whose greatest wish is to be a magic girl. During his PE class, Issei goes to the infirmary, getting frustrated on the fact that he failed to get a contract again. He then wakes up surprised upon finding a naked Rie sleeping beside him. After waking up, Rie dresses up and decides to accompany Issei to his next client in order to make sure that he'll get a contract done this time. The request that Issei receives involves meeting a foreigner girl named Susan that always wears oyoroi due to her typical love of Japanese culture, especially the samurais and their Bushido code. Susan then reveals that her request for the devils is to help her in taking her notes back from the university and assists in her love confession. Using Issei's advice of writing a love letter, Susan manages to properly convey her feelings, resulting in her love interest, Hori, a man wearing a medieval knight's armor, and her becoming a couple successfully. Back at the Occult Research Club, as a victory celebration for his first contract, both Issei and Rie share an intimate moment, causing Akeno to note the subtle change in her master's behavior. Episode 7. Rie decides that Issei and Agia have done enough pamphlet distribution, and it is about time for the two to get their own familiars. Rie and the others then reveal their own familiars, but are interrupted when the student council arrives. Rie reveals that the current president of the student council, Sona Citri, is also a high-class devil and hails from the Citri clan. Both Rie and Sona introduce their new servants to each other, as Issei and Saji start a new rivalry amongst themselves. When Saji reveals that he was given the right to have a familiar by Sona, it overlaps with Rie's plans to have Issei and Agia one, causing both to be troubled by the fact that only one of them can get a familiar at that one time. This results in having a tennis match in order to decide who gets to receive their familiar first. But the match ends in a draw. Rie and Akeno then they decide to have a dodgeball match, which ends with the Occult Research Club winning, albeit with extensive damage to school property due to the extravagant usage of demonic powers in the game. Issei and the others meet the familiar master, Zatoji, who guides them throughout the familiar forest, discovering an Undyne along the way. Issei's expectations of having an Undyne as a familiar are crushed when he sees the real Undynes are burly old muscular women wearing pink togas, causing the entourage to continue their quest for familiars. Later on, after encountering a baby sprite dragon, Issei originally wanted to capture it as his familiar, but later changes his opinion when a slime appears and dissolves the clothes of all the girls present. Issei, impressed by the slime's capabilities and its dauntless potential for pervertedness, then decides that he would have it as his familiar instead of the sprite dragon. This, however, ends in failure, as Rie and the others, disgusted by the slime's lecherous nature, exterminate it much to Issei's woe. As Issei desperately tries to protect the last of the slime on Agia, the baby sprite dragon attacks him and destroys all the remaining slime by electrocuting it. The familiar master then reveals that the baby sprite dragon has taken a liking to Agia, who then proceeds to make the baby sprite dragon her familiar, and names it Rase. Episode 8. Issei dreams of himself marrying Rie, which indirectly leads him to get in touch with his inner dragon. Later at school, Issei, Matsuda, and Motohama are seen peeping at the girls of the Kendo Club in the girls' changing room before getting roughed up by Koneko. At the club room, Agia is seen healing Issei, with Rie saying that she has no problem with showing her body to Issei. After Issei and the others leave, Rie and Akeno have a private conversation on Rie's recent favoritism towards Issei. As Akeno leaves, an unknown magic circle is shown to appear before Rie in the club room. Back in Issei's room at night, Rie suddenly appears, oddly asking Issei to take her virginity out of the blue. Before Rie can continue, a new figure appears and interrupts them, introducing herself as Graphia. Rie then leaves, as she is escorted by Graphia. The next day, Issei meets Riser Phoenix, another high-class devil from the Phoenix clan, and Rie's fiancé. Rie and Riser then have a dispute, due to the disagreement caused by Rie's blatant refusal to marry Riser, with the latter's intention of marrying Rie so that it doesn't stain his family name. Seeing the dispute between Rie and Riser escalate, Graphia offers mediation terms, proposing either of them should sort out their differences by playing a rating game with each other. After it is decided that they would have a rating game against each other to solve the problem, Riser introduces his full peerage to Rie and the others, causing Issei to look upon Riser's female-only peerage with a mixture of jealousy, envy, and admiration. However, after seeing Riser shamelessly flirt with his queen, Yubel Luna, paying no mind to his fiancé's presence, Issei gets angry and challenges Riser to a fight. but immediately loses, being struck down by Mira, one of Riser's pawns, whom he also claimed is his period's weakest member. Riser then leaves, after Rias accepts the terms of the raiding game. Episode 9. In order to prepare for the raiding game that's scheduled after 10 days against Riser Phoenix and his peerage, Rias prepares a cottage in an uninhabited mountain for the Occult Research Club to begin their training activities. However, despite training with Kiba in sword fighting, with Akeno on magic, and finally with Koneko on close-quarter combat, Issei fails miserably, while Asia shows some talent in magic. However, later on, while cooking using magic, Issei notices that upon imagining Akeno's naked body, he can harness his demonic power to peel the potatoes with remarkable ease. Coupling it with the feeling he got when he first activated his sacred gear against Kala Warner, Issei finally gets an idea of developing his new move. Meanwhile, Grafia is seen discussing with her master, Sir Zex, on Rias' decision to accept the raiding game challenge. During nighttime, Issei sneaks out and starts practicing the new move that he earlier thought of alone, until Asia shows up to his help. The next day, Rias starts explaining about the history of the devils, angels, and fallen angels, which in turn leads to the creation of the raiding games. Later on, at night, when Issei has a conversation with Rias about Riser's abilities, Rias tells him the reason that she had for rejecting her engagement, causing Issei to wallow over his own weakness. The next morning, Issei once again has a sparring match with Kiba. However, having trained rigorously for 10 days, his and the Occult Research Club's various efforts pay off when Issei manages to power up his boosted gear enough to use Dragon Shot, which he then uses against Kiba, causing an entire mountainside to be leveled as collateral. This not only secures his first win against his fellow comrades, but also causes Ria's training regimen to achieve its desired conclusion. Episode 10. 1 hour before the raiding game, while Issei prepares himself inside his room, Asia comes in and starts a conversation with him, seeking his mental support. After Issei's alarm clock starts to ring, the two of them leave for the Occult Research Club together. Arriving at the club room, Issei and his friends make final preparations and prepare themselves mentally as they wait for the raiding game against Riser and his team to commence. Before leaving, Sona and Tsubaki arrive to show their support for Rias and wishes her good luck. The Gremory team is then transferred to a dimension where they see a replica of Kuo Academy, which is to be used as the field for the raiding game. Prior to the start of the match, Rias formulates a strategy and orders Akeno, Yuto, and Koneko to place traps in preparation against Riser's assault. While the others head off to make their preparations, Rias then unseals a part of the seal she previously placed on Issei due to his lack of strength to withstand it. After finishing their preparations, Issei and Koneko head to the gymnasium, where they are confronted by 4 of Riser's servants, his rook, Shuelan, and pawns, Mira, Le, and Nell. Noting the strength of the rook, Koneko decides to battle it out with Shuelan, leaving Issei to deal with the remaining 3 pawns. Initially, facing trouble due to being outnumbered 3-1, Issei manages to overcome the odds with the doubling ability of the boosted gear, and succeeds in his task of immobilizing his opponents, after revealing his new move, Dress Break, which strips the girls of their clothes. At the same time, Koneko successfully immobilizes Shuelan by disabling her movements in a submission hold. The two then proceed to leave the gymnasium, allowing Akeno to deal with a finishing blow to the defeated 4 by destroying the gymnasium in one large-scale attack. Meanwhile, inside the forest, Kiba confronts another 3 of Riser's pawns, Shuria, Marion, and Burent, who got caught in the trap set by Rias' team while they were on their way to the enemy's headquarters. Elsewhere, Koneko and Issei decide to move on, initiating the next phase of their plan. Koneko decides to walk ahead of Issei, only to be taken out by a surprise attack from Riser's queen, Yubel Luna. Riser tells Rias not to underestimate him. Episode 11. Issei challenges Yubel Luna in an attempt to avenge Koneko, but is stopped by Akeno, who then proceeds to fight her in his place. Issei then regroups with Yuto after Rias is forced to revise her strategy due to Akeno's fight with Yubel Luna, finally deciding to face Riser herself, despite both Issei's and Yuto's staunch objection. With no options left, both men proceed to challenge the remaining members of Riser's peerage, which are Ravel, Riser's sister and bishop, Carlemine, Riser's knight, Isabella, Riser's rook, Cyrus, Riser's other knight, and Ni and Li, Riser's twin pawns. Yuto fights Colemine, while Issei fights Isabella, defeating Isabella after using Dress Break to disable her movements, before defeating her with his Dragon Shot. However, upon seeing that Rias is at a disadvantage in her fight against Riser, Issei, hoping to be more useful to her, allows his boosted gear to further evolve, transforming it into the boosted gear gift, before transferring the boosted power to Yuto. It is this transferred power that allows Yuto to successfully defeat Riser's remaining pieces, aside from Ravel, in one wide-scale attack with his sword Birth. The victory, however, is short-lived by an unexpected announcement of Akeno being defeated, and Yuto's sudden elimination by Yubel Luna. This causes Issei to ignore Ravel's warning, as he heads to the enemy's headquarters alone, before promoting to Queen and heading to the rooftop to assist Rias and Agia. Issei, however, was incapable of doing anything, as his body had reached its limit due to the burden of the boosted power that was continuously being placed upon his body, and was nearly thrashed to the point near death by Riser. Rias, due to her concern for Issei's well-being, resigns, thus confirming Riser's victory. Episode 12. When Issei wakes up, finding himself passed out on his own bed after the raiding game against Riser and his peerage. He blames himself, knowing that it was his powerlessness that had forced Rias to resign. Soon after, Graphia, Surzek's queen, arrives at his home and gives Issei a magic circle that will allow him to attend the Gramarye Fennec's engagement party in the underworld. When Issei arrives at the designated area and blatantly crashes the party, Surzek interferes, offering arbitration terms to settle the dispute by hosting a one-on-one battle between Riser and Issei, with Rias' engagement on the line. However, when the battle begins, it is shown that Issei traded his left arm to the dragon that resides within him, in exchange for extreme power that will only last for 10 seconds. Issei is able to overpower Riser with his newfound power, but is unable to defeat or deal him critical damage due to the latter's constitution as a phoenix, especially in the brief 10-second window he has. However, even after the 10 seconds are up, Issei manages to win when he surprisingly attacks a slightly weakened Riser with holy objects that he had earlier acquired from Agia, causing the latter to experience excruciating spiritual pain. After winning the battle, it is revealed that Surzek would have, if necessary, allowed a griffin to help Issei and Rias escape. Rias kisses Issei while flying on the griffin, and then cuts to a moment where Rias tells Issei's parents that she plans to move in with him.